everybody, it's the HooperCast. Thanks for listening to the show. It's a Wednesday night, and I'm feeling just right. Phone number 251-333-8732 if you want to leave a voicemail to Google Voice. Be the first. You would definitely be the first. HooperCast@gmail.com is the email address. And Facebook.com/HooperCast is the Facebook page. And hey, everybody, it's Connor. Welcome to the HooperCast Movie Hour. Welcome also Dustin and Kellen, too. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
How are you guys?
I'm good.
I'm good. I just ate a square meal.
Oh, there you go.
Shaped as a square or like balanced?
Did you eat a brownie?
Did you have one of those square salmon like I used to eat?
No, I got a bento box. Actually, no, I didn't. I got a... It was just it was chicken and couscous, if it really matters.
That would be.
I had a round meal. I had a pizza. Although the round was cut into triangles.
Blowing my brain.
I had a rhombus meal.
Trapezoid.
It was great.
It's octagonal.
Let's do math today on the show.
It's geometry. Get it right. God.
We're talking about some movies tonight, of course, for roughly an hour. So, oh, God, you know what I didn't do at all is pull up Box Office Mojo.
Oh, yeah.
Shit. That would help.
I didn't either, so now I've got it. We're good.
Okay, you've got it, Dustin. Okay, you're going to have to steer on Box Office stuff today because my stuff's not open.
I gotcha.
All right, cool. Okay, so this past weekend, movies were Wait, did stuff come out this weekend? It's January. I'm guessing not, but...
Yeah, there were a few things that came out this week. Most notably, The Upside, which took the number one spot away from Aquaman, now in its fourth week.
Really?
Yeah. So it dethroned the King of Atlantis.
Oh.
That's what every article's gonna say. Come on,
especially because Bryan Cranston sits on his own throne.
Yes,
the throne being a wheelchair.
Oh, I thought you were gonna make a Breaking Bad reference.
No, I
all hail the king, and then you didn't.
No.
Okay.
I pointed out his disability.
His fake disability that he's probably going to get an award for, because every time someone's playing a disabled person in a movie, they get an award.
It's true.
Instead of, casting that same disability actor or something.
Correct.
Yeah. Sean Penn, I am Sam.
Yes.
We're not going to go over that monologue.
No, we're not. But I definitely. Although it's weird because it's like Oscar bait, but it's also a January movie. But it took number one. What did it make, Dustin? How much did it bring in?
So it made $20 million this weekend,
okay.
And had a budget of $37 million. So I'm sure it'll
make its money.
Turn a profit in time. But yeah, Aquaman is now up at $287 million domestically, and then number 3 this weekend was another new release, A Dog's Way Home, which is from Sony. It made $11 million off a budget of $18 million, and I'm not sure what kind of legs that'll have. Those dog movies are like a dime a dozen, but
I will say, I'm not going to see that movie. But in the preview for it, the puppy version of the dog looks at the camera and just did this little with its mouth is the cutest. It's one of the cutest things I've ever seen. I was like, I won't pay $12 to go see that whole movie, but if you gave me just that 4 minutes that he's a puppy, and I'd pay about $5 for that.
Okay, that sounds good. When you said he looks at the camera and does that, my first thought was he does a Jim Halpert.
Yeah. No, he pops out of a box or something, and he goes it's really cute. Awesome. Anyway, continue.
Then, number 4, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is in its 5th week. It scored $9 million this weekend, bringing its total up to 147, and then Escape Room is number 5.
And I saw Spider-Man Sunday.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is really good.
Yeah, it is. It's the most fun I've had with a superhero movie since I thought the MCU movies started getting stale around phase 3, 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
A dissenting voice on the podcast.
I don't like it when people come on and disagree with me.
That was a legit gasp.
It was.
He's pearl clutching.
Yeah. These headphones are the color of pearl, so I'm clutching them. But
okay.
What's opening this weekend, Dustin?
Glass.
Yeah, give me one sec. Hold up.
Because again, it's January. There's not too much. There might be like one notable release every weekend, but I only would say the upside's notable because they marketed the hell out of it. So
yeah, sure.
I mean, I was listening to the Dan Patrick Show, and Kevin Hart and Bryan Cranston both came on as guests.
Yep.
So
this weekend, M. Night Shyamalan's new film Glass comes out.
Ooh.
So we'll see how that does. I've been hearing some not so great reviews for it. So we'll see. But you know what? I really dig Unbreakable and I really dig Split. So I'll check it out.
I never saw Split. I had the whole twist at the end spoiled for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which, it's not really a spoiler. It's basically if they had just approached that as a sequel the whole time, I honestly think more people would have seen it. I would have seen it.
I think so too, yeah. And especially now that Glass is out, like the secret's out of the bag. If you haven't seen Split, it is kind of spoiled for you just by the fact that there's another film.
It makes you think of like how the studio or at least the distributor, everybody along those lines would be okay with that decision on a creative level.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's almost like M. Night was like, oh, crap, I have to have a twist. Like, they're going to expect it. What do I do? Quick, call Bruce.
Kellen, come up on your volume just a little bit. You can come back up just a tad. Yeah.
How is this?
That sounds fine.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I liked Split just fine. I mean, I didn't need it to be... an Unbreakable sequel or in betweequel, but
yes,
but it's fine, I guess. I thought Unbreakable was okay. It was one of the a lot of people told me it was great, and I was like, so I finally watched it, and it's one of those movies that's just like.
It's a slow burn.
I'm okay with this things happening now where I am okay with not liking a classic movie because a lot of the enjoyment of a lot of movies for me is just the context into which I watched them. And so for most people like who saw Unbreakable at the time, that was like superhero movies were barely a thing, and so it was still. And
they weren't serious. Subversion. The approach wasn't. Imagine if this was happening in real life. It's always these dudes are in suits flying around,
and they have powers, right?
Yeah, I think that came out in 2002.
I think it was like 2001 or something.
01 or 02, something like that.
What was out? Like Spider-Man, the second Spider-Man had been out, right?
The first Spider-Man was 02.
Yep. So it was just the first one, I believe, at that point.
Yeah. So I mean, look at that contrast. You got Spidey zipping around making quips as Tobey Maguire's a little goofball, and then you got Bruce Willis with his kid. Spoilers: kid pointing a gun at him, saying, "You this won't kill you. You're a superhero."
Right. It was definitely a more mature take when the genre hadn't quite decided it could be that yet.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, in a way, this is a timely release when as a commentary on superhero films themselves. It's a little strange that Samuel L. Jackson is in both Glass and the Marvel movies. So right. Whatever. I mean, he's probably just like, sure, I'll come back. I mean, why? That'd be stupid. But again, like you said, Dustin, the reception to this has kind of been lukewarm. So maybe it's comic book movie fans who are sort of mad at it. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm not. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that comes out this weekend.
It comes out this weekend. I'm sure I'll see it and we'll review it at some point on the show. I'm not sure if I'll see it this weekend, but I'll see it at some point.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else cool coming out?
That's the main big release this week, and then next week is The Kid Who Would Be King, and then really it just kind of drops off for a little bit until like the Lego Movie 2.
Although if Glass did premiere at number 1, it would dethrone Bryan Cranston's throne with Samuel L. Jackson's wheelchair throne.
Yes, it would.
I'm just going to lean into these.
Let's just see how many wheelchairs we can have in the box office.
Let's see how many consecutive number 1s involve a character in a wheelchair.
Somebody call Professor X.
Yes.
Yeah.
We need another X-Men movie.
Yeah. Wait. Maybe the twist of the Kid Who Would Be King is that Merlin is also Professor X, who's gone like back in time with Cerebro. Whatever.
Yeah, it could be. We don't
That
know.
fizzled out real quick. I couldn't put it together.
It's all good.
All right, y'all want to move on to
Sure.
some film news? I don't really have that much. I talked about a lot of the stuff that's going on lately on last night's show. The Netflix price hike.
Yep.
So if you want to hear my opinion on that, you can go back and listen to that episode. Basically, Kellen, I don't know how you feel about this, or Dustin. I think I know you and I are typically in step with this kind of stuff, but my basic opinion was that this was always going to happen. That streaming platforms were gonna multiply and become the cable companies again, basically, and we're going to end up eventually with people not licensing content to each other, and everyone's going to make their own stuff and then charge more money, and we're eventually going to have to pick and choose like one or two because it'll be too expensive to have them all.
Yeah, and then you're going to get like a Sling TV version of streaming apps.
Yep.
Yeah. No, yeah. I as soon as I think it was it Disney was the first one, a couple of years ago that said that they were going to start theirs, and I was like, oh god, we're just going to go back to having channels again.
Yeah,
and we're going to pay more for it than we ever did for cable.
And then on Monday, NBC announced they're going to have their own.
Stupid.
Yeah.
So Universal, it's actually like a thing to where the point. I've heard multiple people say that them having a Netflix, it's a meme now that having a Netflix account is just a lot of people's excuse to be able to just watch The Office all the time. Okay, well, when NBC doesn't renew the license to Netflix, you're not going to be able to do that anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so what are you going to do with Netflix?
So I don't know what kind of conversation you guys had about it before, but to be honest with you, like, I'm 29 years old. I work a steady job to the point where like a couple of dollars isn't a big deal. I get that it is for a lot of people, right? Because a lot of people cut the cord, for cable and everything to save money, and they rely on these streaming services for their entertainment. So I think opinions are going to change based on the strata. And for me, I actually, as Netflix has gone on over the years, a lot of people have complained about stuff being pulled from the catalog and stuff, but I truly think, and it's not just because I work at a company that has multiple Netflix productions going on, but I honestly think that like they've stepped up their creative content. There's like that South Park joke about how like you call Netflix and it says, "Hi, thanks for calling Netflix. You're already greenlit."
Yes.
but like, to be honest with you, I can sit down. There are like 6 shows, Netflix original shows that I'm trying to keep up with. So if a service is, I'm paying double digits, but it's not even $20. I think, what is it right now? 10?
They upped it
Depends
to
on 11,
13. The hike is to 13.
Didn't it like depend on when you started or something?
I don't think it depends this time. I think it's across the board, all the the US subscribers.
Well, so right now, the only ones that I pay for are Hulu and Netflix. I have an Amazon, video account purely because I use Prime for shipping and stuff. But I get onto HBO when I have a show that I want to watch on it, and then I quickly cancel it because, to be honest with you, HBO costing what it does for just one television network's like amount of content is ludicrous. So
right,
we're renewing ours when Game of Thrones comes back.
Yeah, and then turning it off, and then I'll binge Silicon Valley and anything that I want. And like True Detective. Yeah. I'll just basically not leave my house for about, I guess, the entire airing length of Game of Thrones.
During that time, I only watch movies that are on HBO and shows that are on HBO because I'm only going to have it for like 2 months.
Yeah. But anyway,
Dustin, what were you going to say?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I think it's a huge step backwards, but at the same time, like I 100% understand what's going on. I do have, like Kellen, I've got Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon Prime, and I realize that that's a pretty hefty kind of chunk of change to pay for all of that. But at the same time, too, I'm splitting the cost of a couple of those, and it makes it a little more enjoyable. However, I did also hear that Netflix was working on a piece of technology that would figure out if you were sharing your password and would put an end to that.
Yeah. Wait.
Yeah.
Why? They have separate accounts for a reason.
Correct. I don't understand the idea behind that, other than them, it's less dollars that they could be making.
I think it was mainly targeted at people who were selling their passwords online for money.
Yeah.
Because then they're truly taking money from the company. But
so they're paying for it and then charging people a couple of bucks for access.
Exactly.
Exactly. I don't know who buys them online.
Yep.
Instead of just creating their own account. I guess
that's
I don't
so
know, people,
weird.
It's weird, but people are doing it apparently. But I had the same knee-jerk reaction, which was, we have multiple profiles. What if my wife and I share an account. We each have to pay for our own separate one.
Yeah.
Right. Like, how would they,
Yeah, I share it with my sister who, she doesn't work, she doesn't make a ton of money at her job. Yeah. And, she's living on her own. And I was just like, Ashlyn, cancel your Netflix, cancel your Hulu. Here's my information.
Yeah.
Right.
So if somebody messes with that,
pretty standard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's pretty standard. I think a lot of people are doing that. I think it's definitely more directed at those who are actually making money from this as like a little side hustle.
Yeah.
I don't know how that'll roll out, and I don't know what the technology will look like. As I understand, it's still sort of in the early stages, but I don't know what that's going to look like. So we'll have to see. But again, I think what's eventually going to happen is Netflix is going to see a drop in membership, and that may happen here at the price hike. But eventually it will happen. And when that happens, and that may be, at the point of oversaturation, when there is Disney and NBC and CBS All Access and all of these things that we're subscribing to, something's going to have to give. Yeah. And it may very well be whatever's most expensive. And if Netflix is out there saying, look, we are the most expensive because we also have the best content, I think that's going to be a hard thing for some people who are strapped for cash to justify. And when you can always just call your buddy and say, hey man, like, can I borrow your password so I can watch Stranger Things season 7? Then it's like, sure. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I do think there will be a drop off at some point. And at that point, there will be some restructuring happening, but we're a good ways off from that.
I think it'll be when Disney launches theirs. And
I thought they already did.
Well, when they
not quite,
they've announced it, but they haven't launched it and been like, hey, here we still don't know what it's going to cost.
Yep.
On theirs. So I think when they announce price and a start date, I think that's when you'll see people jumping off their Netflix accounts
I think especially families are going to move to Disney.
Yeah.
Families with young kids are going to move to Disney. If they have to, drop one, they'll drop Netflix. But there may be some families who are able to swing both.
Personally, let's say I could only afford 2 services, we'd have Amazon Prime and Disney, because Disney's going to have a lot of the stuff that we watch, and we have the Prime account for shipping. I feel like Amazon, of everyone in this game, can just sit there and do whatever they want because
people aren't paying Prime for the video.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
They're not dependent on the streaming thing. They're the biggest company in the world. They don't. They could run Amazon Prime Instant Video for zero profit and still stay in the game because they make so much money from just their regular
everything
site.
Else.
Yeah,
exactly.
So they can kind of just be like, we'll just sit here at the equivalent of $7.99 a month, and while everyone else jacks up their prices, we'll just kind of hang out and retain subscribers. Because I think that Netflix, the article I read was that Netflix had $6 billion in debt last year or something. Now they have something over 8, and so they have a lot that they need to make some cash. And I think simultaneously they've realized we have a whole lot of the market already signed up for Netflix. So what we need to do now is tighten up on people sharing accounts, and we need to hike up the subscription price.
Yep.
So I
think it'll bite them in the butt.
Yeah. I would also think they probably are going to swing their original content to things that are cheap, or not cheaper, I should say, lower budget, like comedies and stuff like that. I watched. Did you ever watch? Any of you watch the Altered Carbon?
No,
I didn't.
So that was a super duper expensive, extremely high budget looking sci-fi show on Netflix, and I was watching it and I was like, the amount of enjoyment that I'm getting from this compared to how much this thing costs, and it's so niche. I couldn't believe that they put that much money into it. So I just think they're going to get a bit smarter and probably do, not put out so much stuff and kind of research it a bit better. But on the flip side of it, honestly, like Disney's huge. I get that they own so many properties and so many subsidiaries and stuff that they can obviously have their own like content for platform. But I think it's like such a point of hubris for individual broadcast networks to think that like people are going to shell out bucks for like, how many shows do you watch on one network at any given moment? Like I watch the Brooklyn Nine-Nine on NBC now that it's restarted.
Right.
And then I watched The Good Place.
The Good Place is a good show.
And I would never, ever pay a subscription for one of those channels' streaming service.
Right.
And I don't catch up on, like, I don't keep up on anything except for Better Call Saul. It's the only thing that I watch. And what I do with that is I buy the episodes on Amazon, the day after they air.
Yeah.
And that's how I keep up with that. And everything else I binge watch when the entire season's available.
Yeah.
I don't see the benefit of paying, whoever, whatever. It's just like, I'll catch up when I catch up. So I'm not, as much as I love movies and as much as I love TV, and you would think, I'm talking like I'm 80, and you would think I would be right in the demographic for that. But at the same time, I'm also trying to be practical and say, yeah, but I'm not going to pay a billion different people a billion different prices so that I can keep up on all my shows. Like, I'll just watch them when I get to them.
Yeah.
And because for me, there's very little in terms of incentive to stay current on a show.
Yeah.
For me, the only thing that incentivizes me is to not be spoiled. And so that for me, Better Call Saul is the only thing that's really worth that. I just don't see, I don't ever see myself saying, okay, guys, we've got to pay for NBC. We've got to pay for CW. We got to pay for whatever. Like, I'm just not going to be that person.
Yeah.
As much of a film buff as I am. So if I won't do it, like, I certainly can't imagine like the layman doing that. Like, my parents or whatever, like, that's just not going to happen. I don't know.
Think of how many people like have Rokus for all this stuff and they don't even know how to use their Roku.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
my dad calls me like once a week.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so then like throw a bunch of subscription services at them. What's my password for that again? Oh, you wrote it in the notebook.
Right, exactly.
Sorry.
Which one was the new Star Trek on?
Yeah. Go see a Star War.
Go see a Star War.
Anyway.
All right. What else happened? There's the crap. No, we don't have time to talk about that. No, another time. I do want to get people's opinion on this, Dustin, especially yours. There's an announcement today that Disney is working on a live action adaptation of The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Okay.
It's gonna. I mean, the article says based on the Victor Hugo novel. So I don't know if this is gonna be like a Andy Serkis Jungle Book type thing where he's like, no, we're adapting the Rudyard Kipling book or what. But I was like, wow, they're gonna have to like CG Quasimodo. Like he'll look truly hideous in live action.
Well, they're not gonna cast somebody hideous. It's gonna be
The article says so. It's going to be written by Tony Award-winning playwright David Henry Hwang. I know.
Okay.
To write this live action Hunchback movie based on the novel. Music is being handled by Alan Menken and Stephen Schwartz, with Josh Gad also serving as producer on the film. Word is that Gad could be up to play the lead character of Quasimodo, but officially Disney has not announced anything on the casting yet. Obviously Stephen Schwartz winning 3 Oscars for The Prince of Egypt, Pocahontas, and the original score for The Hunchback. And then Alan Menken, of course, we know how good Alan Menken is. So my wife, when I told this to her, she said, like, I think it's going to be hard to beat the music for the original, but seeing as the people are involved, it's possible. So I don't know if this will be like, the Jungle Book or presumably The Lion King, where it's just going to be like a shot for shot live action adaptation, or whether they're going to try and go bolder with it or what. I don't know why Josh Gad is Disney's guy right now. I don't think he wouldn't be a terrible choice for Quasimodo. But I don't know how I feel about this really at all. I'm still not sure how I feel about the live action adaptations.
Well, I'll default to the same thing that I've always said, which is the fact that they're making live action versions of their animated films. And again, presumably maybe this is based on a book, but let's just assume for the sake of argument, this is sort of like a retelling of their own animated version. That the very existence of these live action things invalidates the actual legitimacy of the animated features. As if Lion King isn't legitimate until it looks real, as if Mulan isn't legitimate until it's played by real people. And that to me is a complete betrayal of everything that Disney stood for and everything that Walt pioneered. And it's also a betrayal of an entire art form. And so to me, I can't get behind on principle. I can't get excited for the fact that there's a Dumbo movie, because I'm like, but there already was a Dumbo movie. I don't need another Dumbo movie. And I don't even care if this one's better or worse. The fact is, the original is a classic film, and to remake it, sort of the implication is that, the animated version doesn't matter and animation isn't real. And that to me couldn't be farther from the truth. So on principle, I can't get behind it. However, I also, I didn't know this news until you told me, so this is a knee-jerk reaction, but I'm one of the few people, I guess, that I just genuinely don't like The Hunchback of Notre Dame, period, at all, ever. So I saw that when I was a kid. I saw it once. I don't care. And so for me, if they remake it, whatever, no skin off my nose. But what I will say is, just as an actual, foundation point, I can't get behind redoing an animated film to make it appear real and as if that's supposed to legitimize it. That's ridiculous.
So, what do you think? Well,
I mean, I literally am in 2D animation. That is my livelihood.
Yes.
So my opinion is similar to yours but stronger, but I will reserve my words because I don't want to rant about it.
Sure.
But yeah, it's kind of what I see it as is I get real jaded about what bigwigs, executives do to manhandle an industry to what they think it should be. And telling an audience what they should like instead of listening to an audience. I don't know. I take it to the next level where actually I think about kids and their mentality. They're not as discerning and stuck up as other viewers are. And I think it's just really insulting to children to think that you can't put them in front of that stuff and have them like the originals, which is, I just think it's asinine, because there's so many things that I watched on VHS as a kid that I had no idea came out 20 years before I was born. I remember thinking Oliver and Company was a new movie when I saw it. And I didn't know who Billy Joel was. I didn't know, any of this stuff. I just think it's really short-sighted. It's going back to the well that you've already. I'm trying to. Metaphors are failing me, but I don't know. Sure. I just think it's really disheartening. One, because it is a big middle finger to what I've chosen to do with my life as a medium. And actually, it's not a medium. If you talk to animators, animation is film. It's just it is. Yeah. So anyway, I scoffed at the Jungle Book one. If it really was going back to the Rudyard Kipling book as a source material, I mean that's fine. That's not to say that because one interpretation of that was animation, meaning they all have to be. But when you get into ones where the Lion King was straight up, say what you will about copying from Kimba the White Lion.
Sure. Right.
That was a Disney. That was a Disney. Well, yeah. That was a Disney original to the point where that is just like, oh, that's a cash grab. They don't trust like children as an audience to like animation anymore because they don't even do it well anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So anyway, I said I wasn't going to talk a lot about it. Basically, everything Dustin said, but an added tinge of personal scorn.
Yeah. Oh, I love personal scorn.
Yeah, I got lots of it.
That's our brand here on the HooperCast is personal scorn.
Right. And you know, I'll add to that. Like the first movie I ever saw in theaters was Disney's The Jungle Book. They used to do their re-releases every so often. So that was the first movie I ever saw in theaters. And I had no idea that movie came out like when my dad was born. You know what I mean? Like that, I had no concept of that. That to me was a new movie. And it was beautiful, and I loved every freaking second of it.
Right.
And still to this day, if I put it in, like that animation is gorgeous. Yeah. And so there's no, if it's actual art, no amount of aging removes the artistic integrity.
The only thing that can happen is like social commentary in the movies might not hold up. You know, there's a lot of
and Dumbo's a good example of that.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah, I was going to bring that up. You know, one reason to remake these is that social attitudes have changed, or you know, like the movies themselves have come under fire for years for you know, what's now considered, you know, an unacceptable portrayal of, you know, a particular group of people.
Sure.
Yeah,
you will not see any crows in this new Dumbo movie.
You say that, and that's a legitimate. That's a legitimate point. But then you're like, well, wait. But one of the biggest examples of this having happened is The Lion King. I'm like, the hell happened in The Lion King that was so upsetting to, you know, like
so exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's lazy. I think it's lazy.
Think of a joke reason.
Right. No, the whole thing's a cash grab. And I don't even like care that it's a cash grab because like I understand that Disney's just out to make money. Like I get that. They're a business. It makes sense. But at the end of the day, like why would I treat that with the same level of artistic integrity that I would the original Lion King? I can't. And because it doesn't have the integrity that the original had. And you can say all you want, like, oh, but like James Earl Jones and Elton John are back. And it's like, well, great, but I don't care. Like, and to me, this is, you know, me personally throwing in my own presuppositions, but The Lion King to me is a darn near perfect movie. Yeah. And so I just don't understand what you can add to it that would make it better. And the movie's already trim. Like the only thing you can do is pad it. But why would you pad it if it's already trim and taut as is? And so the whole thing just aggravates me. But whatever.
I'll cap this off with an observation I made a couple of daily episodes ago. And this ties into the you know, another piece of current news that we were talking that I've brought up on this show about Skydance hiring John Lasseter. And so this particular point of view for me was in the context of that, and it applies to these cynical cash grabs as well. I like business. It's a free country. I like people going after their, you know, making their money, whatever they want to do. But businesses are not people, and they're not your friend. They don't care about you. They just want to make money. Every now and then, stuff that business does has a friendly face. Like condemning the hiring of someone who's been accused of doing bad things in the workplace, or making a movie with an evolved social point of view. But those are just the nice PR reasons for making decisions that are purely based on money.
Yeah.
And people need to remember, as much as we like Disney and we like the stuff they make, when it came down to making the money or doing the right thing, it's probably going to be about the money. It's only about doing the right thing or doing the hip thing, in as much as the hip thing is profitable. Yeah.
They're either, you know, rummaging through your pockets or asking you to empty them. They're not trying to be your friend.
Right. They're not your friend. They are strangers with candy.
Yeah. Yes. And sometimes you go, well, maybe the candy's worth.
All right. How about this? Let's. No, you're fine. You're fine.
That's terrible.
It's an apt analogy. I mean,
it is, but I blame the scotch.
Well, how about this? I was going to do this anyway. Let's take a break real quick. Back with more and actual movies on the HooperCast Movie Hour. We'll be right back. All right, and we're back. Hey, everybody, HooperCast Movie Hour, talking about Upgrade. First up tonight, continue our theme of wheelchairs, by the way. Tonight. Dustin, did you see Upgrade?
No, I have not seen this.
All right, so this is me and Kellen then. Kellen, you saw this a while back. I watched this morning.
Oh, God, no, I saw this in theaters, probably opening weekend.
Okay, so this was early 2018, wasn't it?
I think it was spring, early summer, wasn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, it was summer.
Well, this is written and directed by Lee Wanell. What else has Lee Wanell done? That name feels familiar, but
I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, okay. Well, anyway, it's a movie starring Logan Marshall Green. If you don't know who that is, he's the guy from Prometheus who looks kind of like Tom Hardy.
He looks exactly like Tom Hardy.
Yes.
When my buddy was like, "Hey, do you want to go see Upgrade?" And I was like, "Oh, isn't that the Tom Hardy movie where he gets like an implant?" And he's like, "I mean, yes, it's a movie with a guy getting an implant, but it's not Tom Hardy." I was like, "That is some baloney." Yes, it is.
Somebody compared this to Venom, and a person who looks like Tom Hardy is being controlled by a stronger entity and talking to it the whole time.
That's not bad.
It takes place in an unspecified future or alternate present where technology has advanced. There's autonomous vehicles, but largely the biggest piece of technical advancement is mechanical and computer implants in people. People are basically cyborgs. It's a normal thing to have some sort of digital prosthesis in this future. And his character, God, what's his freaking name? I forgot it.
Gray.
Gray is a pretty old school. He's the token old school guy in a futuristic movie where he doesn't trust machines. He doesn't have any implants or anything like that.
He's fixing his like roadster car in the garage.
Yeah, he's fixing it. Yeah, exactly. His gas vehicle with no computers or trackers in it, and life is pretty cool for him. I felt like it wasn't, because like one of the first things he does is like drink a beer and open his garage, and it's daytime. And I swear to God, I thought it was morning because they had like birds chirping. And it wasn't until later where I'm sure it was a test audience note where they said evening forecast is this, that just to specify, like, was it clear that it was after working hours that he was drinking? It's just something I noticed anyway, because I had the impression for like the first 5 minutes that he was like a loser.
And then his hot wife comes home to his like mansion of a house. Yeah,
exactly. And I was like, oh no. And then they mentioned evening forecast, like, oh, okay, he's probably just out of work, or he recently, they didn't really specify why he is at home. But anyway, his wife's like at Six Festival. They're doing fine money wise, and everything's great, and they love each other, and it's cool. And he basically, he was fixing up the car for this rich guy who lives upstate or something. And on the way back, something happens to their autopilot in the car. Car crashes, and these dudes just show up, murder his wife, and paralyze him. And 3 months later, they haven't caught the people. They don't know who did it. They have figured out a way to mask their identities from these police drones that fly around. So despite constant surveillance and a whole bunch of tracking technology in this future, surprise, surprise, people find a way around it. So he goes off. He's a quadriplegic now. The wheelchair reference. He gets this implant on his spine called STEM that allows him to move his limbs again, but he can't tell anybody about it. And then STEM starts talking to him and helping him essentially figure out who's responsible for his wife's murder. And a big thing that STEM can do is fight and
autopilot his body, basically.
Yeah, autopilot his body with his permission, at first, at least.
Spoilers, jeez.
At first, at least. You can imagine it escalates. Like, it seems cool, so what's going to go wrong? Well, things do. Kellen, what did you think of Upgrade?
I liked it. So you don't see a lot of high profile B movies, and I would definitely put this in the B movie category.
I would too.
B movies, they get a bad rap because they did used to be schlock that you weren't supposed to think too much about.
Yeah.
And usually were visually very much a downgrade from something that was, more well produced. But I think B movie now is essentially something like this is I don't want to say high concept because it's not super smart as far as a sci-fi movie goes. High concept
it's a point
as
of view
in
about the future and then a plot within that. It's
basically someone said, what if you boil the movie down, it's a single concept with a movie built around it. It's what if you had an upgrade to a human body, basically, that made you a superhuman.
Yeah.
And then they formed a movie around it that I think not any one bit is super duper compelling. But I had a hilariously large amount of fun just watching the awful violence revenge porn that happened in the latter middle part of the movie to near the end kind of thing. So I had seen one preview for it. I got invited to the movie with no expectations, sat down, saw it, at the draft house, having a beer, having a meal, had a lot of fun with it, did some interesting stuff, some really cool visual effects and tricks and stuff. And, if you're into violence and grisly imagery, there's a lot of interesting ways that he kills people.
Yes.
I don't know. I liked it. I mean, I don't know if you guys give grading or anything like that, but
we pretty much have a 5-star rating. So,
I mean, at this point, since it's not in theaters and it's probably on streaming services, I'd rent it. I would rent it again, having seen it, just so I can watch it again.
Yeah, I got this from the library, so I was watching it. Obviously at home. It wasn't in the theater, but I don't think it's on any streaming services. I double checked before I spent money to get it, but I would give Upgrade. I'd probably give it. I'd give it 3.5 stars. Like you said, in terms of concept, it's not that high, but the enjoyment is there. It almost deserves 4 stars, but I'm not going to give it that high of a rating because it's just enjoyable to watch, and one of those stories that doesn't end in a way that's hard to believe. It's one of those.
It's not a ribbon tied on the end of it.
Yeah, I appreciate the logical conclusion of this film. It doesn't always happen, especially in like you said, like a B level movie. I enjoyed it. I felt bad for this dude and his situation, and after a while, I was like, oh, it's not one of those movies where you're spending a whole lot of time thinking about what the character's going through. I mean, you are, but mostly you're watching this to watch the plot unravel and to see some cool scenes of action, which you do get. Like you said, the camera moves are really interesting and creative.
That chase sequence was actually really good too.
The chase sequence is good. Whenever Stem moves, and begins, whenever Stem takes over and starts fighting for him, the cinematography gets really creative, and it's this really tight, a follow move. It's hard to describe, but it basically leaves him vertical in the frame and tilts the camera essentially perfectly to his movements, to where everything around him becomes distorted, but he remains constant in the frame.
Yeah.
If it's
motion tracking.
Yeah.
What? I don't know.
I don't know what you'd call it. It's picture Dustin, if I did a backflip and the entire time my feet never left the bottom of the frame, but everything else around me swirled.
Yeah.
There were audible gasps and oh snap! What happens is he's laying on his back because he's paralyzed. He's been knocked out of his chair, and there's a guy, bad guy coming after him, and Stem is talking to him, in his brain, and he's like, do you want to give me full control? And he's freaking out. He's like, yeah, sure. And you just hear this audio and he's laying on his back, And literally, like, so he's vertical in frame because he's on the ground.
The camera's on its side.
Yeah, and when he he literally just goes upright without ever even like adjusting his body. It's really bizarre.
And the camera follows him.
Camera follows him up and then just motion tracks with him, like doing all this stuff.
It made action sequences that were otherwise, probably generic, interesting to watch. And the whole time, Logan Marshall Green did a great job of, because in action sequences usually there's choreography and you've practiced it, so whatever. So the character is doing the action, but this is one of those rare times where the body, this person is not responsible for his actions. So the hands, everything's so moving, good. But his head is completely not with it. He's like horrified during this. He's looking away while this is happening.
It's so good.
It's really, really well done. And I'm not sure how he was able to disconnect his face and head from the movements of the rest of his body, but he did it.
Yes.
And it's really interesting.
Picture someone like cutting someone up with a knife and doing horrible, grisly things, and their face the whole time is like their neck is leaning away from it and just going, oh God. Yeah. It's just imagery wise, I've never seen anything like it. It was just really fun.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's just an enjoyable film. I would recommend seeing it for sure. I saw this purely based on people saying it was good. I didn't know too much about the plot. I just knew that he had an implant that could control his body.
Yeah, there's a lot of schlock. There's a lot of eye-rolling moments, but they did a good job in that the guy that they cast for it, Logan Marshall Green, he's good enough and competent enough in the role to make up for the fact that like almost all of the dialogue in character-on-character sequences is pretty like, okay, yeah. Like stilted and let's get to this next thing. But his interaction with himself in his own brain and his reaction to what he's doing is really what you're going to see. So,
gotcha.
Yeah. Let's keep going. Sorry. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up real quick, Kellen. There's something else I wanted to bring up, but I feel like we'll call these next few things just a series of mini discussions.
Sure.
But I really quickly want to bring up Bandersnatch. This is it's considered a Netflix original movie. It's basically an episode of Black Mirror because that's what it is. It's Black Mirror Bandersnatch. You could almost call it a Christmas special in a way because that's right around the time it came out on Netflix. Right? Wasn't it right around Christmas?
Yeah.
I think it was.
Yep.
I think it was right after Christmas.
It might have been right after.
I don't know.
Bandersnatch, in essence, is a choose your own adventure episode of Black Mirror, to where I know that there's like 312 minutes of like shot footage for it. And throughout the story, you are choosing what the character is going to choose. You're given like this binary choice. You pick one, and then he does it, and then the plot follows based on the actions you chose. I'll say it centers around a computer programmer. It's 1980 something, I think 84. He's making an 8-bit video game called Bandersnatch based off of the book, which is itself a choose your own adventure book. So eventually the concept of choosing your own adventure becomes a forefront of the story, to where it's one of those things where you're watching it and you wonder sometimes, like, are some of these characters self-aware? Like, are they, at a certain point, the main character himself becomes aware that he's not in control of his own choices. So he's almost aware that you're making decisions for him. I didn't spend a bunch of time watching this. I went through a few of the endings, but one of the things about Bandersnatch is it's a time suck. So you could spend all week watching it and it's kind of fun. But for me, I was like, okay, I want to watch some other stuff. I got the idea. And I finally went online and looked at a flow chart of all the decisions you can make and what outcomes they lead to. Yeah. Just to know, basically. But it's really interesting stuff. And as a concept, it can't really work for everything. But I think it was really creative how they were able to do this and make it and make essentially a 90-minute thing, like what could be a week-long experience for people. And it was something you have to pay attention to. So I don't know what kind of star rating I'd give it because it's completely a unique, its own thing. But I'll give it a 4. It's just really creative. It's just... Yeah. it's a time investment, and you can't tune out during it. You gotta pay attention. What do you
So,
think, Dylan?
Well, Dustin, did you see it? I don't want to jump in.
No, I didn't.
So I won't. So if that's the case, I won't spoil it because that is relatively fresh in terms of content.
Yeah.
So I actually had all the time in the world. It came out when I was in Denver, house sitting for my brother and my sister-in-law because they were in hospital waiting for her to go into labor. And to have their first kid. So I was staying at their house, and I literally this is how much time I had to kill. I made that flowchart that you're talking about by exploring all of the options.
Oh my god.
And it actually is. It only took me about 5 hours to see literally everything.
Right.
And that's with a lot of stuff replaying because a lot of choices lead to the same things.
Yes.
There is one true ending, and I had the bad luck of getting that literally I made all the right choices except for one, and then when it loops back around and lets you make another choice, I made the other choice, and I got that ending. So I got the real ending, which I won't spoil it.
Right.
But you can tell
the one thumbs up ending.
Yeah, no, it's the one that leads to the credits,
Right.
I got that so early that I was like, holy crap. There's going to be tons of like endings to this like this, and I'm going to, I'll go back through and so maybe I have maybe my opinion of it is skewed negative because I kind of like finished it too quickly. Because every time I went back around, it felt like looping me towards these kind of like dead ends rather than other endings.
Interesting.
Yeah, and some of them, there's a good amount of like fourth wall crumbling over the course of the thing. You start to really, like you said, the characters are self-aware. There are answers that you give as a disembodied like entity talking to the character.
Omnipotent. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think it's a real cool novelty. I just thought it was a little too big for its britches, I guess.
Yeah.
I love Black Mirror. It's one of my favorite, forms of media to come out in a long time. I mean, I think it's this generation's Twilight Zone, specifically perfectly because it revolves around technology. But, so I love Black Mirror, and watching this, I was like, because I saw the true ending and the true flow of stuff so soon, I was like, that episode honestly would have been more more sound and rewarding of an experience than kind of fumbling around and choosing these things. And this is kind of a personal take on it, and people are very different than me. As far as video games go, like my favorite game series is Metroid, and stick with me. In that game, you're given all these doors and options to go through, knowing that eventually you're going to want to go through all of them. So when you go through one and you're like, oh crap, no, I can tell I should go back and go to this other thing. So I have this kind of like weird FOMO when it comes to something that gives me options, if you mind me using the phrase. So every time I made a choice, I was like, crap, I kind of want to go back and just do the other one. And I would have to play that out because you actually can't go back of your own volition and make different decisions. It'll kick you back and give you the option later. So there are so many times where I was like, oh, I'm going into this stream of narrative that I've already been in, and I know where it's going to end, and it's not satisfying. And so, I don't know. I thought it was cool, if not a little clunky, but it's the first of its kind sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I give it like a 4 on the grounds of like novelty alone, but as his actual individual standing story and the reward for putting that much effort and time into it is a little low on my end.
Yeah, the reward's low for that, but my points definitely come from a sense of like enjoyable during the activity, but I do dock it for just taking so long to fully explore it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know.
That's what you get when you play with structure is yeah.
Yeah, I think if something has like a zeitgeist behind it purely because of how it functions, it kind of misses the point that it's still supposed to be about story.
Yeah.
I don't know. Dustin, I would still watch it. I don't want to poop on it so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
Yeah, it's interesting, Dustin, for sure.
I gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's Bandersnatch. Let's see. What was there was a couple of films that you saw, Dustin, that we had seen that you wanted to talk about. Was one of them Solo?
Yeah, we can do Solo.
Solo is recently put on Netflix. I'm guessing you just saw it one night and.
Yeah, that's where I watched it.
Okay.
And have you seen this, Hooper?
No.
But Kellen, you have.
Yeah, I saw it in theaters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kellen, I think. Kellen,
we talked about it the last. Yeah,
you did. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I thought we did.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I'm wondering if Dustin recalls what I said enough to have that have tainted his experience or jogged his memory after seeing it.
No, I don't recall it at all. In fact, I think during that I just kind of made sure to
Zone out.
yeah, in a way, like just don't register this information, Dustin. Like you can react, but don't register it.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. So Solo, like everyone knows what Solo's about, so I'm not going to bother, talking about recapping it. It's the story of Han Solo. Like we get it. The main thing for me with this is after The Last Jedi, I had no intention of seeing Solo in theaters at all. And it came and it went and I was fine. And then it was on DVD and I was like, I don't know, maybe one day. And then it was on Netflix and I was like, all right, fine, today's the day. And so, had it not been so conveniently dropped in my lap, I'm sure I still would not have seen it. So that's sort of my mind frame going in. Coming out, I hesitate to say I was pleasantly surprised because I wasn't. I think my expectations were so low that it's just hard for me to. Well done. No, they really were rock bottom, and so I had no nowhere to go but up. And so having said that, it's not a good movie, but it's not a bad movie. It's not as bad as I thought it would be, but it does a lot of the things that I was afraid it was going to do. Things like over-explaining things that don't need to be explained. Things like
his name,
world building. Yeah, that's the big one. And I guess maybe a lot of people have a problem with this. I kind of avoided all reviews and stuff for it too. I just avoided everything. But from what I understand, just from talking to people, the name thing really aggravated people and aggravated me, to the point where I almost decided to turn it off right then and there. So yeah, it over-explains things. It gives too much weight to things that we know how they pan out. So oh, isn't this a tense scene? And I'm like, no, because I know he lives for a long time. And little things like that, oh, will Chewbacca ever return? And it's yep, because he's in a bunch of other movies.
Yeah.
And little things like that where I'm like, this doesn't have any tension. But it's not I guess if you're thinking about it as a movie, what it has to do, what it does most of what it has to do, and it does it fine. It doesn't make me mad to really see it. It's just that superfluous stuff like the name thing or okay, now we have to work in, Lando and all of this stuff. And it's you don't have to do that. Let's talk about why the Millennium Falcon loses its escape pod and little things where I'm that doesn't matter. And so at the end of the day, it's hard for me to look at it objectively and say, I only enjoyed it as much as I did because I thought it was going to be the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
Right. The bar was low.
Yes. And, so here's the, I really don't even know what to say, but as a movie itself, it's just okay. I guess it's 3 stars. It doesn't make me mad like The Last Jedi did, and it doesn't but it doesn't excite me either. Like, I'm not after this going, oh my gosh, I wonder what they're going to do for Solo 2. Please, come on. I'm just over here like, okay, I guess there's going to be more Star Wars stuff now. Which is the exact same boat I was in before. And so, you know what? Solo is so-so, and that's really the best thing I can say about it. It's just middle of the road. It does its job. It does it fine. Surprisingly, Alden Ehrenreich does somewhat of a decent job, but it's still not Harrison Ford, and it's still not, it's just not
necessary.
It's just
I don't know if you recall my summary after I ranted. I didn't rant about it, but when we talked about it last was it's fine, but it has no reason to exist.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's 100% correct. It's like, it doesn't tell me anything that I needed to know.
No.
Like there's nothing that it adds to the story. It's like, we're world building because look at this planet. And I'm like, but that planet doesn't matter. So you're not world building. And then, so it's stuff like that. And then again, I hate to keep bringing it up, but the name thing is like the big thing, because it's like, hey, let's tell the audience why his name is Solo. And I'm like, I thought it's because his name was Solo. Like, I don't understand. My name is Dustin. Do you have to have a prequel movie telling me why my name's Dustin? No, you just introduced me as a character in this crazy thing called life, and my name's Dustin, and then there you go.
And it's also really dumb because the way that it I'm going into the minutia. The whole way that it unfolds is an Imperial officer saying, "You don't have a last name." And he's like, "No, I've always been by myself." And he's like, "Oh, Solo, eh?"
Solo.
And I'm like, but Solo is a Spanish word, and Spanish doesn't exist. If we are seeing this movie as like being translated into English because it's our language, that doesn't make any sense.
Correct.
He literally could have started out and they wouldn't do this in a Star Wars movie, but it could have been like, I'm Han Solo, I live on Corellia. It could have just been his freaking name.
He's played
right.
by
it's
Disney
always
actor.
been a dumb name anyway.
Yes.
A dumb name that George Lucas was like, well, he's a free spirit. He does all of what he does. He just does what he wants. He's Solo.
Speaking of dumb names, there's two in here specifically. One, Kira. That's an actual name, and they decide to spell it with a Q and an apostrophe. Stupid. And secondly,
Dustin, are you new to Star Wars names? The guy who flies the Millennium Falcon with Lando Calrissian in The Return of the Jedi. His name is Nyanyub. The guy who has a vagina on his face is Nyanyub.
In my mind, this is how detached from Star Wars I am. In my mind, the only names that matter are Luke and Ben and
Leia.
Okay, fine. But here's the one that took the cake for me. One of the villains in this movie.
So Paul Bettany's character?
Do what?
Paul Bettany's character?
No. Although that is another one. But so there's this character named Infus Nest. Is the name of this character. I had to turn on the freaking subtitles to figure out what the name was. I'm not even joking. They said it like 5 times, and I was like, what are they saying? Those aren't words. Those are syllables. And so I turned on the subtitles, and it's ENFYSNEST. Infus Nest.
What character is that? I don't even remember that.
That's the bounty hunter that's stealing the plunder that they're stealing.
There's the okay.
Yeah, the reveal. Yeah. The name is Infus Nest, and I'm like, that's not a name. That's not a thing.
Hold on, I'm gonna look up Star Wars characters' names and how dumb they are.
It's so stupid.
So literally every character that ever gets screen time in a Star Wars movie has a name.
Yes, this is correct.
And so I have an animation pitch that's space based, and I came up with a name for this character. I can't remember. I had to rename it. I can't remember the name that I came up with. I just totally made it up. and I named this character, and he's an alien character. And at one point I just searched the name online. Guess what? There's a Star Wars character named that. You can't. Yep. You could come up with the most ridiculous combination of syllables and consonants. There's a Star Wars character named that.
Yep, so, that sounds about right.
Yeah, it's pretty annoying.
But it's bad when they're all like, "Oh no, Infus Nest is coming," and I'm like, "Who? What are you saying? Are you still speaking English, my friend?" And like, there's nothing there. And so anyway, all that to say, like,
sorry.
You just found one.
I'm on a list. I'm on a list of funny names.
All right, let's hear them.
Do you remember the old white dude with the goatee on Padme's Amidala's board of directors of Naboo?
Board of trustees.
Sure.
His name is Sio Bibble. It's terrible.
Oh no.
And then there's a dude in Revenge of the Sith who literally is just sitting in the stands during the opera with Palpatine. That's literally what he does. He's just sitting there. His name is Swite Concorkill. And then, oh my God, I forgot about this one. In The Force Awakens, there's a character named Ello Asti, which is literally Hello Nasty, which was a Beastie Boys album.
Oh no.
I hate this. This pisses me off so much.
I'm so over Star Wars, guys. It drives me up a freaking wall.
They put Porkins on this list. I think he's great.
Who?
You remember Porkins? The one fat rebel pilot, and they named him Porkins?
Oh no!
You didn't know that?
Is he the guy who goes like, "Yeah, I'm all right."
Yeah. He dies in A New Hope. He's the fat white dude with the goatee, and his name is Jack Porkins. Dude, I thought everybody knew about Porkins.
I didn't know his name.
Oh boy!
My gosh.
Go back and watch it.
Twice as much money because their characters had names.
Dude, Connor,
right?
Yeah. You should go back and watch Star Wars with your kids and be like, "No, Porkins!" and see how they react.
You all remember this man. His name was Porkins. He came from the proud Porkins family.
Oh, his name was Jack Porkins.
Oh, sorry. Now I'm just hoping that they retcon The Last Jedi and Snoke really was Porkins.
Dude, I've been getting messages all day because our mutual acquaintance Jack has been watching the Star Wars movies on Netflix, I guess, with his son, and he's so frustrated lately with all this stuff. He's been texting our little group text all day about just the glaring problems. We talked about, the regular ones in The Last Jedi and all that, but he went into he just said, from a military standpoint, he says The Force Awakens and the entire new series feels like everybody in a position of power is a complete amateur just making stuff up as they go. In the original trilogy and in the prequels and the Sith, Jedi, Rebels, and Empire all seem to be in charge and experts at what they were doing. I hate everything that's been done in this last movie.
Dustin, before we go back to what you were talking about, there's a character in the Solo movie. I guess he's at one of the gambling scenes. Mm-hmm. His name is Therm Scissor Punch. Oh my God. I hate Star Wars.
Therm Scissor Punch.
I think I realized over the past 2 years, I actually hate Star Wars. I thought I loved it. It's so weird to pull a 180 where I'm like, oh my God, wait, I fucking hate. I freaking hate Star Wars.
I hate this now.
well. So here's the thing. I've never been a huge Star Wars fan. I like the original 3 films, and I like them fine. But I don't like the prequels, and I haven't really liked anything that Disney's put out. And so for me, it still lives as a trilogy, which is good. I mean, it doesn't phenomenal.
The clout it has is really bizarre.
Yeah,
it is. I guess it's just because of the time in which it was released. But
I think it's because it's a cultural powerhouse more than a cinematic one.
Right. Yeah. True.
There's
but I'm just like,
there's something you said on one of our shows recently, Dustin. I can't remember what you were talking about, but I think about what you said all the time. And it might have been like in reference to like Lois Lane or something. I can't remember. But, oh God, it's like on the tip of my tongue. I'll think of it later. But it was basically like, you said like, I try to watch the thing and then this person shows up and I go, oh wait, I hate you now though. and I think like when we think what Kellen just said made me think of that. Like, oh, that's right. I hate this now.
Right. No, it's so true. Like I went and saw The Last Jedi in theaters because it's like,
you know what? It was Rey. You were talking about Rey.
Was it? That makes sense.
You're talking about her. Like I said,
yeah, because everything she did in the second movie was hate-worthy.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like I go back and watch The Force Awakens.
No. Oh, I remember. Connor, he was at a toy store. He was at Target and saw toys in an aisle, and he was like, "Ooh, I'll buy this Rey action figure."
Oh wait, but I hate her now.
I hate you now.
It's true. I don't remember saying that, but it's absolutely true. Like the fact is, like, these movies are just like laughable, and so Solo. That's why it's so weird for me for Solo, because I'm like, were my expectations just so low that I just didn't care? And the things that should have made me angry didn't faze me. Like, I don't understand. But yeah, like at the end of the day, when it comes to Solo and really all of these Star Wars movies by Disney, it's literally like, hey, everybody, why don't you cheer for this thing that's on screen because you're supposed to? And like, because there's that moment, like, right, this is not a spoiler, where Han meets Chewie, and it's like, I should feel something, but I don't feel anything at all. Yeah. And then there's like a couple moments where they're like talking and you're like, I should definitely feel like I should definitely want to watch this, and I don't. And then there's the moment where they all see the Millennium Falcon, and it's like, this should be an epic moment, but I don't care. And that's like the whole thing over and over and over. And so undoubtedly, when episode X comes out this December,
I'm sorry. I was taking a sip of water and I had to swallow so quickly.
But when it comes out this December, I'm going to be sitting there going, why am I here? Like, it's literally just some morbid curiosity at this point. And yeah, anyway, there's Solo. Yay, Ron Howard.
Another
if you allow me to...
Sorry.
Well, if you allow me to another messed up metaphor, it's kind of like your abusive... Sorry. I'm still choking on water. It's kind of like if you have an abusive husband and you're coming home from work and you walk in and instead of this time he doesn't beat you, he just verbally abuses you. That was going to see Solo.
Yeah, and you're like, today was a good day, going to sleep.
Yeah. You're like, all he did was just tear me down word by word. He didn't punch me in the face or knock me on the ground.
Yeah.
Anyway.
He's really changing that man.
Another observation about the Star Wars franchise from our friend Jack. That whole opening scene in The Last Jedi where Hux and Poe have the radio conversation makes them both look like petty amateurs and idiots, not two military commanders engaging in a dangerous fleet of arms, which I guess subverts my expectations, but it also makes me realize what fucking clowns they are and how much nothing in the movie matters at all.
There's a Yo Mama joke in the first 2 minutes of a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Can we also just talk about the fact that you just said two names, Hux and Poe, with a straight face, and those A are stupid names, and B, it sounds more like you're naming the Teletubbies.
The last thing that he says about this, he says Ryan Johnson. He spells it with a Y. Parentheses. I refuse to support his incorrect spelling of his name. Completely ruined one of my... Yeah,
but it subverts your expectation that it uses an
his
I.
parents subverted expectations when they
you guys
changed the spelling.
You're getting me riled up. Don't do it.
Ryan Johnson completely ruined one of my childhood heroes in Luke. Luke was the perpetual optimist. He never gave up on anyone. He could always see the light side until his nephew starts to learn the Force, and then he's all of a sudden like, fuck it, he has a little darkness in him. I'll just kill him since he's unredeemable. That's not Luke in any way, shape, or form. Luke would have talked to Ben and then set out on a mission to find, identify, and defeat Snoke, which just that sentence is already a better movie than Force Awakens. And my friend Stefan reacted with a tear.
Oh man. Dang, he's so right.
Yeah.
man.
Ugh.
Okay, we should change the subject because
Sure,
I'm gonna
okay.
go.
Yeah,
let's
I'm
move
gonna
on.
go right back into all of the same complaints that I have.
Kellen, pour
Right.
another scotch tonight.
I'll be back. Actually,
deaden
I'm
the
gonna
feelings.
go. I'll be right back. Wait, what are you talking about next?
We'll move on to Bird Box. It'll be brief.
Oh,
Yeah, let's do
man.
Bird Box.
I got stuff to say about that, but I'm gonna go pour scotch.
Okay. Yeah, we touched on this briefly. I've already given my thoughts on Bird Box.
Yeah.
I thought it was an enjoyable watch, but ultimately, I had problems with it, which, Dustin, I suspect you're about to bring up, and I can't wait.
Yeah. Do we want to wait on Kellen? Do we want to just go ahead and I can go ahead and recap
Go
it and
for
then
it.
he can jump in.
Yeah.
So Bird Box was released over the holiday break
Right.
on Netflix. So a ton of people saw it just because they were at home and had nothing to do.
That's why I watched it.
Yeah,
I was in my in-laws,
and
and I needed some time.
100%. It's based on a novel, but that doesn't matter. And so the movie stars Sandra Bullock. She plays a woman named Mallory who is pregnant and sort of, jaded by a lot of things. And so she and her sister go to a doctor's appointment where they check on the baby and everything's great, except they also hear that in some foreign countries there are some mysterious rash outbreaks of suicides. And so while they're leaving...
I think the number was 10,000 suicides.
Yeah, something like that. Some thousands.
Yeah.
It was in Russia and the Eastern Europe or something.
Yeah, that's right.
So a ton of suicides happening over there, and but no reported cases in the U.S. And then coincidentally,
they appropriately respond, "Oh, that's fine then."
Right? Yeah, they're just it's not here. That's fine. And so
what was that accent?
I don't know. I just made it up off the top of my head.
Yeah, Tony.
So they leave the appointment and then some strange things start happening and I don't know they're all seeing some stuff and then everybody's going crazy and her sister ends up crashing the car and then stepping in front of a truck and killing herself, and so this pregnant lady now gets trampled on and then this woman comes to help her and then the woman helps her but then is mom and goes and kills herself, and so now Sandra Bullock is rescued and put in this house. This is the worst recap, but regardless, she's put in a house, and in this house there's a bunch of other people who are all taking shelter from whatever it is that's out there that people are it's making people see things and then kill themselves. So now we've got a group of survivors in a closed quarter situation where they cannot leave the house and at any moment, because they really don't know anything at this point about these creatures. At any point they suspect that they could be next. They could fall victim to whatever this is. So the big chunk of the movie is trying to survive in a world where you have to have your eyes closed. And so you've seen all of the Bird Box challenge videos and stuff where people are stepping out in traffic or whatever they're doing. And
what?
Oh yeah, you haven't heard of this?
Yeah, there's a ton of injuries from
this. It's gonna weed out the dummies from the gene pool. I guess that's fine.
Man,
it's true.
Except for the people who get hit by those. There's been a couple fatalities, I think, of people driving their cars blindfolded and then
what?
killing people. Yeah.
Yeah, that is crazy.
It's the stupidest thing I've ever witnessed on social media.
You're bringing out old man Kellen. Oh, you don't want this.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to live on this planet anymore. But the basic premise here is that Sandra Bullock has to survive while pregnant, while living with a group of strangers, and these weird creature things are making people kill themselves. So the only logical explanation, or the only logical way to combat this, is to not look at anything. So you've seen the memes, but she's wearing a bandana on her head like a Ninja Turtle and walking to different places. And so that's the basic thing. Hooper recapped his thoughts while you were gone, Kellen, but I'm curious to know where this sits for you.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I thought it was I thought it was dumb. I don't want to get into spoiler territory, but literally what it felt like was somebody was making a movie about like you can't hear something or something's, basically A Quiet Place came out and someone went, oh crap. You said it came from a prior book, so I guess that's obviously not true. But but literally it felt like someone saw A Quiet Place or knew it was in production and was like, sensory suspense thrillers is going to be the next thing. And was like, well, okay, wait. All right. So in A Quiet Place, you had to be real quiet because the monsters would hear you. So what if you have to close your eyes because you can't see the monsters? Whoa. And then they made a whole bloated thing around it. And so what I equate it as is it's basically if you took the middle of the road and bad parts of A Quiet Place and mixed it with just all of the shit that was the happening.
Yeah, okay.
And makes sense. That is Bird Box, and I watched it. No, ma'am. I watched it one day before going out one night, and I was doing all these chores. I was folding my laundry. So basically, I was watching this movie while folding laundry, and the laundry was more exciting. I just didn't like it. And I was actually kind of pissed off because the only reason that I chose to watch it was because people wouldn't shut up on on social networking sites about it. Yeah. I had all these coworkers and these people in the film industry talking about it, hashtag Bird Box. And I'm like, fine. And I turned it on and I finished it. And I was like, I hate everybody.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I'm playing it up a little bit for comedic effect. It was fine, but this doesn't deserve the the attention it's getting. It's just so forgettable and blah.
Well, speaking of tension, I just thought there was none in the film. I mean, because the way most of the events of the film take place in the past, you know that she's going to make it to the river because she's going down the river.
And guess who's not there? The people that she's with. I wonder what could happen to them.
Something happens to them, clearly.
Right.
You know that the other pregnant lady's going to die because there's two kids with her. I mean,
I also thought it was really dumb because they didn't play by their own rules. So there's this, basically try not to spoil it. You don't have to see the, whatever they are, monsters, aliens. You don't have to see them with direct eyesight. It's literally a depiction of them can do it.
Right.
On a screen. They have so many point of view shots through the bandana where you can make stuff outside the bandana. And I'm like, why wouldn't that, what that would kill what?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It was so dumb. It was dumb.
So in regards to the rules, this is the age old conversation. It always makes me feel like an ancient, old, decrepit person. But when we talk about horror movies, I always talk about the rules. To me, the rules are king.
Yeah.
If I don't know the rules that the world lives in, then I can't properly actually be scared. And so in this, the weird thing is for me, the rules took a backseat because it was clear the movie itself didn't care about the rules. But the one thing that kept coming up is I'm like, why can't the creatures go inside? Maybe I could buy that, they don't know you're in there. Maybe I could buy that, whatever. But at the end of the day, if there's a scene in the movie where, some characters are inside and there's some windows that get busted out
immediately.
And the creature knows that that the people are inside, and the people who are inside, some of them look and have the effect
immediately.
But
it's been chilling outside. Why can't it come in?
Correct. Yeah. And that's what I don't understand is and so that's where I got hung up. It wasn't the whole see through the the blindfold or anything like that, like, even though that's still stupid, but it's because I'm like, I don't care. Like, the movie doesn't care. Yeah. But the one thing that the movie never even bothered with was, why can't they come inside? Like, are they vampires? They have to be invited in? Like, I don't understand. But even that doesn't make sense, because they're outside in the sunlight. Like, nothing makes sense here. Yeah. And so, I don't know what's going on. But and then they're like, the movie's called Bird Box. Guess why? There's a box of birds in there. And for me, I'm like, but why? And they're like, the birds alert you to the creatures. And I'm like, but why though? That would be cool to know.
I also thought, for such a tiny, dumb, small device in the movie to like name it that, I'm like, you guys just had no idea what to call this movie. Like, spooky, don't look at them.
Oh, that should have been it. I just want to do hashtag spooky don't look at them challenge. Yeah, no, look, I mean, at the end of the day, for me, it was okay. Like, I didn't hate it, but I also didn't get anything from it. Yeah. And I've heard a lot of people really complain about the ending. I didn't even mind the ending. Like, for me, what I didn't care for was, like Hooper just mentioned, the way it was structured relieves you of tension before it builds. Mm-hmm. So anytime they ever try anything that's tense, it's like, well, the only thing that can happen here is that one of these random characters dies, one of the red shirts. But I know that Sandra Bullock's not going to, because I've seen her in the future.
And I know the kid's not going to either, unless it happens later in the movie.
Exactly. And then the question is like, so do these other people die, or do they run away, or do they whatever?
Get split up.
But yeah, but that's not enough tension, right? Because I mean, it's a horror movie. They die, right? So at the end of the day, like, I'm not even that worried about it. To me, the only thing that actually was genuinely interesting was the guy, the British guy that comes in halfway through the movie.
Yeah.
Tom to me,
Hollander.
that was the only. Yes. And to me, that was the only part that was like slightly interesting. Yep. And the problem with that is, again, speaking of the rules, this doesn't make any sense. Why this guy is the way that he is, and why there are other people like him in this world. But again, I didn't get so hung up on it because the movie itself doesn't care.
Yeah, so you're not going to invest more. The movie just needed a bad guy.
Yeah. It was an opportunity for the movie to say something, like to explain why some people like him could do the things that they could do, or had the mission that they had. And it was a perfect time for some sort of metaphor. I read something to where people were saying that was like a way of like highlighting mental illness. But then I was like, how? So mentally ill people they look at the creatures and they don't want to commit suicide? What is that supposed to say?
But I don't buy that, because you have because then the idea is that mentally ill people are rising up and like are unaffected or whatever,
and will kill you.
Who are
Which is literally,
the whole thing.
Not the message you want to send.
Right. And you're right. Like, that was the perfect opportunity to actually do some sort of world building, right? Yeah. Like, okay, as cheesy as this is off the top of my head, right? Like, they interrogate that guy, like they capture him, they interrogate the guy, like, tell me about the creatures. And he's like, oh, they're spooky and they're from outer space. And, like that sort of thing. But it's, they don't bother doing any of that. So I guess the end, like, that's why I don't care about the rules here, is because the movie doesn't care about the rules. Yeah. But I can't help but on the back end of it say, like, yeah, but did the writer even think? Like, did the writer even say, like, yeah, but is somebody going to leave this film and say, yeah, but why that though? And so I feel like as a writer, you should be knowledgeable enough of your story to say, I didn't give them any. Now, notice what I'm not saying. I'm not saying I didn't give them any answers. I'm saying I didn't give them enough information to even create a theory
or ask questions. Like, your questions are the most rudimentary thing. They're not like, well, but wait, blah, blah. It's not intricate. It's just like the earliest steps aren't answered.
Right. So this doesn't even go like Damon Lindelof weird, like terrible, where it's like, here's all these questions and no answers. This is like, you don't even have enough information to formulate a question. All you have is like, hey, thing, suicide, thing, not suicide, thing, outside, not inside. And that's all you know. And birds also chirp, and like, that's all you have. And so again, like, for me, it's okay, but I think the problem is it had such potential. Like, the idea of you can't look at the monster, like that's a fine premise. It's arguably a great premise, but it needs to be handled by a skilled director who can handle the limitations of, okay, how do I build tension without ever showing my monster? And that's where something like Jaws becomes so important, is they didn't have the budget to show the monster. And this would be an actual, like, conscious decision not to show the monster. So for me, it's like, you have to have a skilled director, a skilled writer. And I think with a movie like this, where it is so high concept, like, okay, you can't look at a thing or whatever, like, that's a perfect opportunity for metaphor, but they don't utilize the opportunity to tell a real world story through a fantastic event, like something like a Twilight Zone or a Star Trek might. This is just like, they can't see. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. Wow, it makes a good poster.
There's no deeper truth revealed in this movie.
Exactly. And I've heard people argue, like, it's about motherhood. It's about connecting with the world around you. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's about Sandra Bullock
around you, and it's only about motherhood in the sense that her character arc is, I don't want kids to. I guess I could be a mom.
But can I also point out how absolutely unrealistic it is for a human woman to name two kids, boy and girl?
Wait. Okay. This is such a specific gripe that I have with the movie, but it's literally related to this. So they bookend this movie with an interaction with this just side character, and this is obviously spoiler information. So Hoop, if you want to cut this eventually, it's fine. I just want to talk to you guys about this.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the movie, she's going to that appointment, right? With her sister.
Yep.
And there's this like a what do you call it? Like a pregnancy nurse? No, doctor. Pregnancy.
Like an OB.
An OBGYN.
Yeah. And she's talking to her, and like, she's the one that basically shoehorns to the audience, like, the information that Sandra Bullock's character is not quite ready to be a mom. She's not taking it seriously. She's not acting, as if this is a definite thing that's happening to her body, kind of thing.
Right.
And my eyes rolled 5 times back in my head when at the end of the movie, she sees that same doctor in the safe haven, safe haven that she finds.
Yep.
So one, I was like, oh my God, really? Like, really? And then she has this interaction with her, and she introduces the kids, but she never named them, which, as Dustin said, complete horse poop. Like,
yeah,
she calls them boy and girl, and the kids are about to, they're like introducing themselves to her or something, and she goes, no, actually, your name is this and your name is this. And I wanted so badly for the camera to just swing over to the doctor's face, to her horror. Like, are you fucking kidding me? You never gave these children names after, like, oh my God. Like, she would have started a custody battle for the children as soon as that went down. I was like rolling over like, oh my God. The doctor's supposed to like solidify that like she's changed, and I'm like, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, you're a horrible, horrible person.
Well, see, and they open the movie with that. The first scene of the movie is like close up on her eyes, and then it like the camera comes back and you see the kids standing there, and she refers to them as boy and girl. And in my mind, even in that first scene, I was like, wait a minute, is she doing that like in the Ron Swanson type of way, or is she doing that like because that's their names? And from that moment on, when it was finally like actually revealed like that's their names, I was like, bull crap. No, there is not a single human on this planet. I don't care how detached.
What's really funny is that she had she was cohabitating with that guy, like they were together.
Yeah.
I forgot his name. because the movie
Tom.
didn't want me to know anybody's name, apparently.
Correct.
That dude raised the kids with her. You fucking know, sorry, pardon the language, you know that he would name the children like himself and tell them that.
Yeah. And there's even that scene where he's like, you never even gave them names. And I'm like, so you have a problem with this, but you still call them boy and girl?
Yeah. God.
No, the kids are like toddling around, and you're like, all right, hold on, Mallory. Like, we got to name these things.
These things.
This isn't boy and girl. Let's name them. Yeah, it's so stupid.
Yeah, see, it's like I said, it's the dumbest parts of A Quiet Place, which I don't think A Quiet Place was very smart either. Well, it's like, we don't need to go into that.
Sure.
But this movie was like 5 times dumber than A Quiet Place, which I liked. I would give A Quiet Place a thumbs up, and I'm like, this one is a double thumbs down. I just was...
I loved A Quiet Place. But
I liked A Quiet Place a lot too. But
just okay. This movie's so much lower.
Oh, the heart in it was amazing compared to this baloney. But
The Quiet Place was actually about something. Like, it was a big, large metaphor that worked as a science fiction story and as an allegory for family and fatherhood.
Well, but that's what I always go back to is when I watch a science fiction movie, I always say, like, what are you telling me?
Yeah.
And that's because Gene Roddenberry and Rod Serling taught me to do that. Right? Like what are we actually talking about? Because we're not just talking about lasers. Right, we're talking about something else, and Bird Box was talking about nothing.
Yeah,
it was like it had the illusion that it was talking about like motherhood,
right.
But it's not.
No,
it had the illusion that it was talking
about
connecting. No.
Do you know it was a good movie about commentating on motherhood?
What's that?
The Babadook.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That movie was really rad because, you know, I don't have kids, so Connor, you can totally tell me if I'm wrong, but like, it's not all roses and celebration, and like, they're not always the most amazing thing to you, because that movie was all about how this woman was raising this child by herself, and there were so many times where she just like hated everything about her circumstance.
Yes.
And so I'm like, dude, that was such a good message because it normalizes nobody talks about having kids that way, but if everybody talked about
the 2 most annoying people I've ever met.
So like, that movie was really great because it was trying to have a conversation on like we don't talk about these types of attitudes, and all it can cause is horrible things to happen.
Yeah.
So and then this movie is literally like anyway. Yeah.
The Babadook was a big, long, good category. Not long, a good category, allegory. Sounds like category. Allegory about grief. And it's literally manifested in this entity. And the whole thing is about coping with grief. How do you compartmentalize grief?
Yeah.
Like, how it's never going to leave. So what do you do with it? And in terms of like how it's executed as a horror film is absolutely how I would execute my own horror film. Speaking of horror, let's touch on the last movie.
Sure.
We've kind of thrown time to the wind this evening.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
But I'm interested because I feel I watched Annihilation however long back, a few months maybe, and my base thoughts on it was that I didn't like it. I thought that it was it was one of those movies where I sort of just came out of it like, okay, what happened? What are they trying to, I don't know. It was just one of those where it wasn't so much confused. I was just like, I don't understand what I'm supposed to think about what happened. And so I gave it like a 3 because I was like, it's executed on a technical level and a conceptual level. It's cool. But in terms of my ability to follow the story and how much I enjoyed watching it, I got to dock at some points. But I've did what I do and eventually watch like someone's video essay about it. And then I go, okay, so was this secretly brilliant and I'm just stupid? And so then I come away with like this revised point of view of like, oh no, like it's one of those things where I don't recommend that the average moviegoer watch it, as I don't think they'll get anything out of it. But as a higher concept, it seems like it's well executed. So Dustin, you saw this recently, right? And Kelly, you've seen
so
it.
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay,
I
so
loved
we've all
it.
seen it.
I'll
Okay.
talk about
So
that.
Annihilation is now on Prime Video, and it's also on Hulu. So you've got your places to see it there. But let's let Kellen set this one up. Like, give us a quick recap of the story, Kellen.
So there is this like anomaly happening that's slowly. It's like basically this bubble. That's like slowly growing at a whatever rate, so that over time it's going to swallow everything. What goes on inside of it isn't really talked about until you get into it. It's literally like the rules don't make sense in there, and time dilates and shrinks, and it basically says weird juju happens inside this bubble.
It's a big MacGuffin for the writers to do whatever they want, basically.
Yeah. But I also thought it was really smart because you don't know what to expect.
Yes.
And there's
there's real tension.
I watched this by myself because I was so bored I couldn't find anything else to watch. So imagine my surprise when I watched this and loved the movie. So what does Natalie Portman's character do? Like, what's her job?
She's like a biologist, isn't she?
Yeah, she's a biologist.
So she
studies cancer, I believe.
And she signs on to be a recon team, basically to go in after the last recon team.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious. And she doesn't tell everybody about this, I think, at first, but she is the wife of the leader of the last recon group to go in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so she goes in with this group. I think it's all women, right?
It is all women.
Yes.
Yeah, and it has this is how bad I am at being a movie commentator. It has that actress who's in Creed 1 and 2, and she's real big right now.
Tessa Thompson.
We've
also got oh damn it, from Jennifer Jason Leigh's in there.
Yeah,
there are a couple that I don't know by name.
Yeah. So anyway, they go into the anomaly, and all manner of just really trippy and weird stuff happens. It starts out being kind of like, I think they see some plants that they've never seen before. Mm-hmm. And Natalie Portman talks about, like, I think she studies them under a microscope and talks about how like cellular and molecular biology is just like not making like it doesn't fall in line with what happens in science and reality.
Yeah, a lot of things that they're witnessing are not explainable by biological science. I mean, they encounter animals that they're animal hybrids that wouldn't be able to breed together into this mutation.
Yeah, like the giant, I think that white crocodile or something.
Yeah, it's a big white crocodile,
yeah.
And then later there's a really great scene, the best scene in the movie, with that bear. The scariest bear in the world, that instead of roars, you hear the screams of people.
The bear is made up of people it's killed, and like, oh God, have you ever seen like a breakdown of that special effect without lighting and without like the everything to kind of obscure it?
No.
You should look it up. It's amazing. Like the skull of the bear thingy is made of like just all this weird grotesque imagery. Like it's basically if like a nuclear bomb went off and like the blast melted a bunch of bodies together.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
God.
Anyway, so I really loved the movie because I think this movie, well, one, I love high concept sci-fi. I would actually, this isn't hard sci-fi because hard sci-fi is usually, it's within the realms of explainable science, and you kind of treat things as if this is how a work of fiction would roll out under circumstances we understand.
Right.
And this movie is literally, I'd say it's sci-fi, but what it honestly feels.
Well, to me, it was far more fantasy than it was science fiction, because this is way more like, this is more Neverland or Oz or Narnia than it is anything else.
But they put that in a narrative of them trying to explain it and find out what it is.
Yeah, science terminology to explain the outlandish, fantastical nature of this place.
I love this movie because this seemed the closest you could ever get to having like an avant-garde blockbuster film. Because the way that they're not super interested in explaining and giving answers to things. And I'm usually the type of person that hates that. But the movie, like, it basically told you that from the get-go. Like you weren't going in there to understand what was happening in there. As soon as it just started playing out and you're just seeing how these people are experiencing it, you kind of are just along for the ride. And the stuff that it does at the end, and it like it was super confusing at first, and I actually went back and watched it again. It's not there to I don't know. It's not there to give you some kind of, you know, ribbon at the end. It's supposed to be kind of like, what the hell just happened?
Well, no, you're right. So if I'm not mistaken, the very first scene or the very first thing you see in this film is Benedict Wong plays a character who's questioning Natalie Portman, like, hey, what happened in there? And part of her answer is, I don't know. And so from the very beginning, you understand that I'm not going to know anything more than what Natalie Portman knows, and she doesn't know a lot of things.
Yeah.
So you're right. Like through the film, there's always this undercurrent of there's going to be a lot in this that I'm not going to understand.
Yeah. I don't know. I just thought it was super duper unique. I know it's written and based on a book series, but I've read that they've changed enough about it.
What they did was Alex Garland decided, instead of adapting the books, he was adapting the story as he remembered it. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he just adapted it from memory, not from like a breakdown of, you know.
Is that a method I just don't know anything about?
I don't know whether it was cool laziness or whether he just decided like, I don't want to be too close to source material, but I don't want to deliberately make changes that, you know, just for the sake of being different from the source material. So why don't I at least start with the story as I remember it and just see what that looks like as a narrative? And he must have been happy enough with it.
Gotcha. For me, like this movie is not great. Like, I didn't love it, but also didn't hate it. But I also am warmer on it than like middle of the road. So I'm in the upper category on this. But I think there's some problems, and I think I've talked about this actually fairly recently on the show, is rewatchability. And I think this movie's not as rewatchable, as, at least for me, as I would like my movies to be. And I think part of that is the length of the film. I think it's too long. I think it's a slow burn, and I think there's a lot of kind of lingering and atmospheric stuff that, while it certainly sets the mood, it also doesn't. It doesn't necessarily move the story forward. And so, there's a lot that I would probably do differently than the way that it's done here. But at the end of the day, it's a good movie. It shows, in an age where I think we're all kind of looking for and wondering what sort of next level sci-fi looks like, or wondering what a real strong female lead looks like. I think that this kind of hits all the right buttons. It's also, while it is that, it's also, I think, probably performed by the actors a little lazily. And I don't know if that was a stylistic choice, or if that was just sort of like the mood on set was like everybody was confused, or like what was happening. But specifically Jennifer Jason Leigh, from her first line, I did not buy her as a character whatsoever. And so the whole thing feels a little stilted to me. It feels a little like people were either lazy or confused. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of life in some of the performances. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag for me. But just in terms of like the actual visuals of it, the thought behind it, the concepts, and like I said, the sort of the fantastic nature of this, which I really loved that about it, is that from the beginning I was like, this is like Oz to me. This is like a reimagining of Wizard of Oz, right? It's girl goes into this magic place and sees crazy things. things. And so to me, I loved that about it. But at the same time, there's a few things that I've got to dock, like the performances or the pace, or at times even the tone just felt a little too like dour for me, and I think especially when we're outside of what do they call this, the shimmer or
shimmer, yeah,
the shimmer, outside of the shimmer, I felt like there should have been, and maybe this is just me like, you know, putting Oz on top of it, you know, there's a very clear stylistic change between the real world and the Land of Oz in that film. I would have loved to have seen something similar here, where it's almost two different tones, or, you know, just like a different cinematic language between what is real and what is in the shimmer. And I think that would have maybe helped for me kind of separate it and feel like, not that it didn't feel like there was tension, but that when they go into the shimmer, it would have felt so drastically different that I think it would have really signaled like an onset of anxiety from the get-go. And so all that said, like, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. Like I said, there's some things I would do differently, but at the end of the day, this is like the upper echelon of science fiction from 2018. This is really great in terms of visual storytelling, because there's like a whole sequence towards the end that's dialogue free. It's literally just movement and the visuals selling what's happening, and there's a lot happening, and I love that. And then I got a lot of, and I really appreciated this, a lot of like callbacks, I thought, to The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing. You mentioned the bear scene. That reminded me so much of when MacReady has everyone's blood and he's testing it. Like that, to me, it felt so much like that scene where, you know, in The Thing, everyone's tied to the chair. Like it felt so similar to that. And then down to the ending where things aren't necessarily tied up very nice and neat. That to me felt like it was pulled right from John Carpenter's The Thing. So I really enjoyed quite a lot about this film. But for me, like I would have to hang my hat and on the rewatchability. I just think that it's too long and too meandering for me to ever sit down and really invest in it again. Now, I might skip through to a few scenes here and there, but to really sit through that whole film again, I think it's going to be a while before I do that. So for that reason, like, I got to knock it down a little bit. But I enjoyed it. And so my recommendation would be, if you're paying for Hulu or Prime now, or Prime Video already, like, this is free basically. So just check it out when you have some time to kill. But if this is something that you're going to have to make a conscious effort to go to Redbox or go to the library or go buy it, I would say maybe wait. So that would be my recommendation.
I think that this is one of those movies that, like, while I don't really recommend, like, I docked at points because it was not an enjoyable watch for me, like, overall.
Yeah, sure.
There are definitely things I liked about it. But I gave it lots of points for technical stuff. Like, I liked the filmmaking style. It was just key factors of watching for me, which is rewatchability, investing in the characters, and pace. Those were all low scores for me. I didn't really care what they were going for. I was just too confused about what the rules even were, really, of the movie. But it is one of those things where, like you said, if you already have a subscription to one of these services, it's a good movie to watch, if not just to expose yourself to a higher level of filmmaking than you might be used to, and just to appreciate the creative choices made in here. Especially if you can sort of get through the slower parts of it. It's different than a lot of stuff you've watched if you generally just watch broader science fiction.
Yeah, and I just to put my little last dollop on it. I think like the last 15 minutes of that movie was probably one of the most like visually arresting things that I had seen.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when you're watching it, there's a hell of a lot of confusion of what exactly is happening. So it's just so weird. It feels like this bizarre fever dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
And the end was just so like I was so confused, and I was like what is happening? But just watching it was so compelling. It's just bizarre.
Yeah.
I don't know. I loved it.
Sweet.
Yeah. So you can find that on Hulu or Amazon Prime. Or God, I watched it. I got that one from their library, but that was before it was on these services. Damn it. It keeps happening. A lot.
You got too eager.
I know. I'm trying to be all current and stuff. I need to just do what I would normally do. That's the trouble with this show, Dustin, because we talked about how, you know, the we don't really feel the pressure, and you and I literally had a conversation about this like a year ago, where it was like, I just don't really feel or want to feel the pressure of having seen current things. Do you? No. Okay. Well, it's just not.
Yep. Right. Exactly.
You know, like the idea that like we felt that, at least that I, you know, at least speaking for myself, at one point felt like, but what will we talk about? I think the answer was whatever we want, whatever we watched.
Right.
You know, I mean, like, so the idea that a lot of the stuff that I paid money to check out is essentially free to me 8 months later. It's like, hey, my advice to people listening is take advantage of that. You know, like, you don't have to watch this stuff as soon as it comes out. And you don't have to, you know, a lot of times, even if you're spoiled, I mean, sometimes when I get spoiled on stuff, I forget what I got spoiled on by the time I sit down and watch the movie. So, I mean, yeah, and especially if you're going to digest stuff like Annihilation, like, I mean, you know, part of me doesn't want to advise you against paying for it, but part of me just goes, hey, but you know, you're probably tight with the wallet and you want to watch some stuff, but you don't want to spend $20 on a movie that you might hate. So especially a movie like this, where it's not the easiest film to sit through. That's definitely the kind of film that you would watch on a streaming service. That's the whole point, that they license them to get the film to reach an audience that wouldn't have otherwise paid money to see it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, so while licensing is still a part of streaming, take advantage of it.
Yeah, totally.
All right, that's gonna do it. This was pretty much the HooperCast double hour tonight.
Right.
But hell, guys, we talked about a lot of stuff.
We did.
Yeah, we did.
I was just so when you gave the list of things, I was so proud of myself. I was like, I've seen everything.
I was proud of you too, Kellen. I was like, yeah,
I know, me too.
Good on you, Kellen. We just kind of left out. Those were things we wanted to talk about anyway. And then
I'm hip.
Kellen, like, Dustin sent me the list, and I was like, okay, I know Kellen's seen like 3 of these things. I wonder if he's seen Annihilation or and so, Kellen was so excited.
I was so proud. I sent a text specifically saying, I've seen all of those things.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Kellen, for coming on.
Tons of fun.
I definitely appreciate it.
Yeah.
If you're listening, listen to the next episode. That's gonna be it. That's it for the HooperCast Movie Hour. Have a good week, everybody. Get out and see some good movies. What comes out this weekend again? Glass. Okay, so maybe check out Glass. I don't know if you want.
Yeah.
No pressure. Okay.
Right.
Good night, everybody. See you later.
Good night.